Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Chapter 8, second video. Let me ask you some questions about the last video. First question, what kind of increase and how did the increase come when Jane got to the table from her sister's room? Answer. I know this answer is quite specific. So for some of the questions, if you need to consult the text, that's fine. So answer. They were civil inquiries, right? They were inquiries respecting civility, respecting this kind of ritual you have in society, right? And how did they come? Answer, if you didn't. They just poured in, right? So just as you would pour, I don't know, water on a glass, like when it's raining and then you say it's pouring outside, right? So if it's pouring outside, so it means it's raining cats and dogs. You know this expression, raining cats and dogs? Very nice. Question, how did Mr. Bingley's attitude distinguish from the other people's attitude regarding the inquiries? Answer. He was much more concerned than the others, right? And he had a much superior solicitude. And that's nice. My next question is, what was what was Lizzie's impression on the sisters at the end of this whole conversation about her sister? The sisters, of course, I'm talking about Bingley's sisters, right? Answer. She had gone back to her first impression that she didn't like them so much. All right. So she went back to her old dislike. Next question. How did she feel? Now let me change my question. How would she have felt if it hadn't been for Mr. Bingley's attention to her? Answer. She would have felt like an intruder, because she sensed that for the other guys she was an intruder. But she didn't feel so because because of Mr. Bingley's attitude. By the way, if this construction is complex for you, how would she have felt if it hadn't been for, all right? Take a look at the channel here, the third conditional. There's third conditional videos. I think you should watch it. This is very important piece of grammar, okay? So this is a homework for you, okay? If you can't find it, don't worry, sometimes I can't find things here in the channel. So you just type Kondajeski, you know, because the name of the channel is Kondajeski, right? Between quotes and conditional. So you'll find a third conditional to help you there if you don't feel completely safe, you know, creating sentences like the one I gave you just now. Okay, but let me see. During the conversation there, where was the attention of the sisters? Answer. The attention was in Mr. Darcy. All right. Question. Did Mr. Hurst try to talk to Lizzie? About what? Answer. Yes, he did. He tried to talk to her about food, ragu specifically, and when he didn't get a satisfactory answer, he just let it drop, right? Question: what happened as soon as Elizabeth left the room? Answer: as soon as Elizabeth left the room, the sisters started gossiping about her, right? Question: what did the sisters gossip about? Answer: they gossiped about I don't know, the fact of Lizzie coming walking in this long distance by herself in this kind of weather, about her dirty dress, right? And about the fact that she doesn't have any kind of qualities, to impress a man. They don't say that, but it's implicit, right? What is her quality? She's a walker. She knows how to walk. Okay. She was so blousy, remember? And her hair was so untidy. Okay. So let's continue. Yes, and her petticoat. I hope you saw her petticoat, 6 inches deep in mud. I am absolutely certain. And the gown, which had been let down to hide it, not doing its office. I should have asked you a question about this word office here, right? It would have been a very beautiful question, but it's water under the bridge, right? Two things I would like you to realize. The first one, that I use again the third conditional, but a variation of the third conditional. Let me change. Not a variation, but it's like a kind of grammar based on the third conditional. All right. I should have asked you a question about office. That was my sentence. If you have problems with should have, could have, might have, take a look here in the channel as well. You have videos to help you with that. Remember, the grammar for should have, for example, and the others are as important as the third conditional. And while you are there, if you have some time, take a look at a video called Mixed Conditionals, right? You will find it very interesting if you don't master this specific grammar point. Okay. Your picture may be very exact, Louisa, said Bingley, but this was all lost upon me. I thought Miss Elizabeth Bennet looked remarkably well when she came into the room this morning. Her dirty petticoat quite escaped my notice. You observed it, Mr. Darcy, I'm sure, said Miss Bingley, and I'm inclined to think that you would not wish to see your sister make such an exhibition. Certainly not, Mr. Bingley said, right? To walk 3 miles, or 4 miles, or 5 miles, or whatever it is, above her ankles in dirt, and alone, quite alone. Again is the girl speaking. What could she mean by it? It seems to me to show an abominable sort of conceited independence, a most country town indifference to decorum. Decorum. In our Quizlet, I put a picture of the Queen, if I'm not wrong, because I think it's very nice. Abominable, right? It's pretty much like Portuguese. Why I put a picture of the Queen there in decorum? Because it's dignified property or of conduct, manners or appearance. The customs of polite society, so I don't know. Well, of course we're talking about the more formal society, but it's pretty indecorum. For example, if you're going to visit the person, right, first you should call, give notice, all right? That's pretty simple for us, but imagine a society like that, all right? Imagine nobility. Imagine how much of decorum should you have, right? So, a most country town indifference to decorum. This is Lizzie's personality, according to the sisters. It shows an affection for her sister that is very pleasing, said Bingley. I am afraid, Mr. Darcy, observed Miss Bingley in a half-whispered, that this adventure has rather affected your admiration of her fine eyes. Not at all, he replied. They were brightened by the exercise. A short pause followed this speech, and Mrs. Hurst began again. Now, before we go to what Mrs. Hurst, the older sister, right, said, I think it's nice to realize that Jane Austen is not as simple as a Hollywood movie, right? So, no, he respects the, I don't know, individuality of women and how brave she was walking alone and not being afraid, you know. So that's Mr. Darcy because he is the hero, right? He's the main character. No, it's more complex than that, right? On the other hand, he's not like, so if he thinks she shouldn't have walked by herself, so he's an evil guy and he doesn't know how to admire her. No, things are much more complex than that, right? Remember that we live in a period that there are certain rules you should obey, okay? And Mr. Darcy is concerned about those rules. Of course, the book will try to answer how important those rules are, but there isn't a completely disregard for those rules, you know? So it's not like anybody who respects those rules are stupid and superficial. It's not as that. There are people, as we can see with the sisters, that they pay too much attention to that decorum. But I don't know, we can imagine a person like Mr. Darcy is doing now that does respect the decorum. All right, a lady shouldn't be walking by herself, but that doesn't mean that he can't admire her eyes. He can't find her extremely beautiful, and even, I don't know, respect her love for her sister, you know. That is just to tell you, let's not try to put the characters, mainly the most complex characters, in one definition, right? But after all, is Mr. Bingley, Mr. Darcy, an open-minded or a close-minded person, right? It's not like that. Okay. So he said, not at all. You know, the fact that she came all ruddy, right, and a little bit sweaty, you know, they brightened her eyes, right? The exercise brightened her eyes. A short pause followed this speech, and Mrs. Hurst began again. I have an excessive regard for Miss Jane Bennet. She is really a very sweet girl, and I wish with all my heart she were well settled. But with such a father and mother and such low connections, I'm afraid there is no chance of it. I think I have heard you say that their uncle is an attorney in Meryton. Yes, and they have another who lives somewhere near Cheapside. That is capital, added her sister, and they both laughed heartily. My question, and I'm going to answer that question just in the next video. Why did they laugh? And you know, they talked, I'm going to read it again, they talked about the capital, about an uncle that is a lawyer, And it's as if they're making fun of the family because the guy lives close to London. And what is happening here? Let me read it again. Look, they're talking trash about Jane, right? They're saying that Jane won't get, a very good husband or a very good position in society, right? But with such a father and mother, and with such low connections, I'm afraid there is no chance of it. I think I have heard, the others saying, I think I have heard you say that their uncle is an attorney in Meryton. Yes, and they have another who lives somewhere near Cheapside. That is capital, added her sister, and they both laughed heartedly. So try to answer that question, and you can listen to my answer in the next video.